Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're going to teach you how to play Red Rising solo. Now, Red Rising is from Stonemaier Games. Stonemaier Games has a history now of fantastic solo versions of their games. They have the Automa factory that builds these solo versions. It started with viticulture, and I think the complexity of these Automas, these solo variants, peaked with Scythe, and since then they have, in my mind, gotten better and less complicated. And now, to be clear, less complicated does not equal better, but if you can be better and less complicated at the same time, that's pretty awesome. And from what I can tell, the Red Rising Automa seems to continue that trend. This one, Red Rising itself, of course, is not that complicated a game, but this Automa is super easy to use, and we're going to teach you how to do that right now. Total Automa allows a single player to play Red Rising solo as if it were a two-player game. Total Automa plays by simpler rules. For example, she ignores almost everything on a character card. Any rules not explicitly overwritten in the Automa rules are still in effect. Automa cards are divided into sections and elements, which will be explained in detail as we proceed through this video. For now, I'll just give you the names of the different parts of the card. This is the Deploy Character section. This is the Gain Character section. And this is the Extras section. Inside the Deploy Character section, there's a visual reminder to deploy a character and the location selection. In the Gain Character section, there's a visual reminder to gain a character and a location selection. And then in the Extras selection, there is the bonus indicator. This arrow is the location tiebreaker and applies to both the Gain Character section and the bonus section. Before doing any of the normal setup steps of a two-player game, first shuffle the 22 normal Automa cards to form the face-down Automa deck and set the top 4 aside. Shuffle the 4 priority cards and place one face up at the top of each location. A is the highest priority, and Automa will use that location most often, while D is the lowest and will be used the least often. Take the Luna bonus card and tuck it underneath the Luna priority card, so that if Luna has priority B, as it does here, then the visible bonus is C, like this. If Luna had been C, then it would also be used to show the B bonus. If Luna was A, as you see here, then the card would be used to show the D bonus. And same thing if Luna had been D. Players now need to remove EO, Auctioneer, Loan Shark, Rock, and Psychologist from the character deck. These cards will not be used during solo play. Next, set up the rest of the game as normal, but with these changes. Automa starts with a hand of 2 character cards as opposed to the normal 5, and she does not gain a house. The cards in her hand are face down. Next, we'll check to see if there are more odd or even cards on the board. As you can see, there are 5 odd cards facing up on the board, so we'll take the odd even card and place it so that odd is showing out like that. If there had been a tie, then even is always the one shown. Also, it should be noted that 0 counts as even. Finally, it's recommended that players do not use house series in their first few plays. When the player activates a deploy ability such as this one, that allows them to potentially either steal a card from an Automa or force the Automa to banish one, they use the bottom card from the Automa's hand. Whenever the Automa adds a card to her hand or returns one after revealing it, it is placed on top of her hand. Also, if the player ever activates an ability that allows the Automa to gain something for free, she will always choose to do so. Some cards instruct the player to reveal one or more cards. Normally, the player must show the cards to other players, but obviously the Automa doesn't care. So the player simply must have the specified cards in their hand. When the Automa gains the Luna bonus, even if she does not actually get the Sovereign token, she also gains the bonus of the location indicated on the Luna card, in this case, Mars. Automa takes her turn in turn order just like a human player. First, if there are no cards left in the Automa deck, take the 4 cards that were set aside earlier as well as the discard pile and shuffle them into a new Automa deck. Then take the top 4 and set them aside. The Automa then draws the top 2 cards and will resolve them in order. The first card must be fully resolved before the second card is resolved. This means that the Automa will do 2 lead actions per turn instead of just 1 like the player, and she never scouts. Players always resolve Automa cards from top to bottom. So in this case, the player will deploy a character card to the Jupiter location by taking the top card from the character deck and placing it out. This does not trigger the deploy ability. Next, the Automa will gain the top card of the location chosen by the gain section of the Automa card, in this case, section A, so the developer, which is then placed face down on top of their hand. Finally, if there's an icon in the extras section, resolve that extra. The star, as you see here, means the player gains the bonus of the location from which she gained a card. In this case, Mars, so helium. If instead there were an X in the extras section, as you see here, the top card of the character deck is banished. Finally, the 2 resolved Automa cards are discarded. It should be noted that the Automa discard pile is considered open information for the player. Also, it should be noted that it is possible, such as with this Automa card, for the Automa to deploy to a section and then gain from that same section. So let's talk in a little bit more detail about how the Automa selects a location. If there is a location icon, then obviously they will select that location. If there is a letter instead, they will select the appropriate letter. However, when gaining a character, an empty location can never be valid. So if the Automa selects one, instead look at the arrow and start at the location selected. In this case, the Institute, and the arrow is pointing that way. The Automa moves in the direction of the arrow until the first location that is valid is found. And since it's going this way, it wraps around to Jupiter, and Jupiter is valid. The Automa will gain Virga. If the Automa in any way would gain a bonus of which she already has 10, she instead gains the bonus of another location. And she'll choose this new location using the tiebreaker arrow in the same manner we just discussed. So the star provides the bonus of the location she just gained a character from, in this case Jupiter. Jupiter is already at 10 for the Automa, and so she would continue this way based on the arrow, come to Mars, and gain a helium. If she were gaining a bonus based off the Luna card that she already had 10 of, she would still break the tie using the Automa card arrow. This does not affect her gaining the Sovereign token. When playing with the Automa on normal difficulty, handle the scoring as follows. First, the Automa will start with a base score of 70. Also, the points for the Fleet Track, Helium tokens, Sovereign token, and Influence are the same as with a human player. Next, the player will sort the Automa's hand as follows. Separate them into odd and even. In this particular game, odd was chosen at the beginning, based off of the starting character cards on the board. And so the odd cards are considered matching, and the even cards are considered not matching. Next, we'll reduce the Automa's hand to 20 cards. We'll discard non-matching first. Currently, there are 24 cards total, so we'll remove 4 non-matching cards. If the Automa happened to already have 20 or less cards, then there'd be no need to remove any. Finally, the Automa gains 6 points for all matching cards and 3 points per non-matching card. These points are added to the Automa's base score of 70. The difficulty level can be adjusted according to this chart on page 4. It affects the points awarded for matching and non-matching cards. Also, if the player is interested, there is a section on page 4 that explains a variant that allows the use of 4 of the character cards that were removed during setup. So there you go, that's how to play Red Rising solo. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Like my channel, subscribe, or like the video, subscribe to the channel. That's the order that it goes in. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.